There comes a moment in life when nothing around you changes, yet everything feels different inside. The same world, the same people, the same routine, but your heart sees it all through a completely new lens. This is not confusion. This is not loss. This is a transformation. When Allah changes your perspective, He doesn't just adjust how you think, He reshapes how you feel, how you react, and how you understand your purpose in this life. And once this shift happens, you can never go back to who you used to be. One of the most profound realities a person can experience is realizing that real change does not begin in the world around them, but deep within their own heart. People often spend years waiting for their circumstances to improve, believing that peace will come when their problems disappear, when their environment becomes easier, or when others begin to treat them differently. But what they don't realize is that Allah, in His wisdom, does not always change the situation first. He changes you. And when that internal shift begins, it is subtle at first. You may not even notice it immediately. The same issues still exist. The same challenges remain, and the same people behave as they always have. Yet something inside you starts to respond differently. The things that once triggered anger now invite patience. The situations that once caused anxiety now push you toward trust. The hardships that once made you question everything now make you reflect more deeply. This is not weakness. This is not you becoming indifferent. This is your heart being recalibrated. Allah begins to purify the way you see the world. He removes the illusion that everything must go your way for you to be at peace. Instead, He teaches your heart a deeper understanding that peace was never meant to come from control, but from surrender. You begin to realize that your reactions were never just about the situation itself, but about how your heart was attached to it. When your expectations were tied to people, their actions had the power to break you. When your happiness was tied to outcomes, every delay felt like a burden. But when Allah shifts your perspective, He loosens these attachments. Now, when something doesn't go your way, you pause instead of panic. You reflect instead of react. You ask yourself what Allah might be teaching you through this moment rather than immediately resisting it. This internal transformation changes how you carry your burdens. The weight may still be there, but it no longer crushes you the same way. Because now you are not carrying it alone. You are carrying it with awareness, with trust, with a quiet understanding that there is wisdom behind what you cannot yet see. You also begin to notice how your focus starts to change. Your heart becomes less obsessed with proving something to people and more concerned with being sincere in the sight of Allah. You stop seeking constant validation from others because something within you begins to feel anchored. Even your relationship with time changes. You are no longer rushing through life with urgency and impatience, demanding immediate results. Instead, there is a calmness that develops, a willingness to wait, to trust the process, to understand that everything unfolds exactly when it is meant to. And perhaps one of the most powerful parts of this shift is how it affects your thoughts in moments of difficulty. Before, your mind may have been filled with questions like, why is this happening to me? Or when will this end? But now those questions slowly transform into something deeper. What can I learn from this? And how can this bring me closer to Allah? This is the kind of change that no one may see on the outside, but it completely transforms your inner world. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, but it is powerful, because when your heart changes, everything you experience begins to feel different. Even if nothing around you has changed at all, there comes a point in a person's life when the things they once chased with so much energy begin to lose their shine. It's not that those things completely disappear, but their hold over your heart weakens. The excitement you once felt for worldly achievements, recognition, status, or material comfort starts to feel incomplete, almost as if something is missing no matter how much you gain. This is not a loss. This is a redirection. Allah begins to shift your focus from a life centered around the temporary to a life that is anchored in the eternal. And this shift doesn't happen overnight. It unfolds gradually through experiences, through disappointments, through moments where you realize that even when you get exactly what you wanted, it still doesn't satisfy your heart the way you thought it would. You start to notice that the Dunya, with all its attractions, is not as fulfilling as it once seemed. The things that once motivated you, impressing others, gaining more, being ahead, begin to feel heavy rather than exciting. You find yourself questioning your intentions more deeply. Why am I doing this? Who am I trying to please? What is the true value of all of this in the sight of Allah? And with these questions, your priorities begin to realign. Your heart slowly detaches from the need for constant worldly validation. You no longer feel the same urgency to prove yourself to people because you begin to understand that their opinions are temporary, limited, and often inconsistent. One day they praise you, the next day they criticize you. But when your focus shifts toward the Akhirah, you start seeking something far more stable, the acceptance of Allah. This change transforms how you approach your daily life. The same actions you used to do for worldly gain now begin to carry a different intention. Your work is no longer just about earning. It becomes about fulfilling responsibility with honesty and integrity. Your interactions are no longer just social. They become opportunities to show kindness, patience, and sincerity. Even your goals begin to change. Before, success may have been defined by what you could accumulate, wealth, achievements, recognition. But now, success starts to look very different. It becomes about the state of your heart, about your connection with Allah, about whether your actions are bringing you closer to Him or pulling you away. You begin to measure your progress, not by how much you have, but by how much you have grown spiritually. Are you more patient than before? Are you more grateful? Are you more aware of Allah in your daily life? These questions start to matter more than any worldly milestone. And with this shift, something remarkable happens. You start to experience a different kind of peace. It is not the temporary happiness that comes from getting what you want, but a deeper contentment that comes from knowing you are walking in the right direction. Even when things don't go your way, your heart doesn't break in the same way it used to, because now your ultimate goal is not tied to this world. You understand that this life is a journey, a test, a passage towards something far greater. And this understanding changes how you handle both success and failure. Success no longer makes you arrogant, because you know it is temporary and a test in itself. And failure no longer destroys you, because you know it does not define your final outcome. You start to live with a sense of purpose that goes beyond what people can see. Your actions may look the same from the outside, but internally, everything has changed. Your heart is no longer attached to the fleeting nature of this world. It is connected to something higher, something lasting, something that gives meaning to every step you take. There are moments in life when pain feels overwhelming, when it seems like it has no meaning, no direction, and no end. In those moments, a person often feels lost, questioning why certain things had to happen, why certain nas hurt them, why certain doors closed, and why life took a turn they never expected. At first, pain feels like something that only takes from you. It takes your peace, your stability, your sense of control. It makes you feel vulnerable in ways you never imagined. You try to escape it, to avoid it, to distract yourself from it. But no matter how much you run, it finds a way to sit with you in the quiet moments. But when Allah changes your perspective, that same pain begins to take on a completely different meaning. You start to realize that pain was never sent to destroy you. It was sent to shape you. The experiences that once felt like they were breaking you apart slowly begin to rebuild you in a way you couldn't have imagined before. You begin to see how those difficult moments softened your heart, how they made you more aware, more reflective, more conscious of your actions and your relationship with Allah. The pain you went through starts to open your eyes to things you were once blind to. You become more empathetic toward others because you understand what it feels like to struggle. You become less judgmental because you realize that everyone is fighting battles you cannot see. You begin to carry a depth within you that only hardship can create. And slowly you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And instead begin to ask, what is this teaching me? That question changes everything, because now every hardship becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes a form of protection. Every disappointment becomes a redirection. You begin to see that what you once labeled as loss may have actually been a form of mercy that you didn't understand at the time. You reflect on your past and begin to connect the dots. You see how certain painful experiences pushed you closer to Allah when you had drifted away. You see how certain heartbreaks removed people from your life who were not meant to stay. You see how certain failures prevented you from paths that could have harmed you in ways you never realized. And with this realization, your relationship with pain transforms. It no longer feels meaningless. It no longer feels like something you simply have to endure without understanding. Instead, it becomes something that carries purpose, something that holds hidden al-khair within it, even if that goodness is not immediately visible. You begin to handle your struggles with a different mindset. Instead of resisting every difficulty, you start to accept that hardship is part of the journey. Not every moment is meant to be easy, and not every chapter is meant to feel comfortable. Some chapters are meant to refine you, to teach you patience, to strengthen your trust in Allah. Even in moments when the pain is still present, there is a subtle shift in how you carry it. You may still feel it deeply, but you are no longer completely lost in it. There is a quiet awareness within you that this too has a purpose, that this too is shaping something within you that will matter later. You begin to see that your pain is not just about you. It becomes something that allows you to connect with others on a deeper level. You are able to comfort people in ways you couldn't before, because you understand their struggles not just intellectually, but emotionally. Your words carry sincerity because they come from lived experience. And in this way, what once hurt you begins to help others. What once broke you begins to build something meaningful through you. You start to realize that the pain you went through was never wasted. Every tear, every moment of confusion, every sleepless night, it all had a role in shaping the person you are becoming. It all contributed to a deeper awareness, a stronger connection, and a more grounded understanding of life. And even though you may not have chosen those difficult moments for yourself, you begin to see that they were part of a greater plan, one that is slowly unfolding in ways you could not have understood before. One of the most difficult things for the human heart is to let go of control. There is something within us that constantly wants to plan, to predict, to secure outcomes before they even happen. We build expectations around how life should unfold, how people should behave, and how quickly our prayers should be answered. And when things don't go according to that plan, it creates a deep sense of frustration, anxiety, and sometimes even helplessness. At the core of this struggle is the belief that we are in control of more than we actually are. But when Allah changes your perspective, He begins to gently show you the limits of your control, not to weaken you, but to free you. You start to realize that no matter how carefully you plan, there are always factors beyond your reach. You cannot control people's hearts, you cannot control timing, and you cannot control every outcome, no matter how much effort you put in. At first, this realization can feel unsettling because it challenges the illusion of certainty that you once held on to. But slowly, it begins to bring a different kind of peace. You begin to understand that your role was never to control the results, but to put in sincere effort and leave the rest to Allah. This shift changes how you approach everything in your life. You still work hard, you still make plans, you still strive for what is good, but your heart is no longer attached to the outcome in the same way. When something doesn't go according to your expectations, it no longer feels like everything is falling apart. Instead, there is a pause within you, a moment where you step back and remind yourself that there is a wisdom you may not yet see. This is where true tawakkul begins to grow. Letting go of control does not mean becoming passive or careless. It does not mean you stop trying or that you accept injustice. Rather, it means that you understand the balance between effort and trust. You do what is within your ability with sincerity and excellence, and then you release the need to dictate the result. You begin to feel lighter because you are no longer carrying the burden of trying to manage everything. The constant overthinking starts to quiet down. The fear of the future begins to lose its grip on your heart. You stop exhausting yourself with what-if scenarios that may never even happen. Instead, your heart learns to stay present. You focus on what you can do in this moment, trusting that what is meant for you will not miss you, and what misses you was never meant for you. This belief doesn't just sit in your mind, it begins to settle deep within your heart. And when challenges come, as they inevitably will, your response starts to change. Instead of immediately reacting with panic or frustration, you find yourself turning to Allah more naturally. You make dua with sincerity, not just as a last resort, but as your first response. You begin to understand that control was never the source of your peace. Trust was even in situations where you feel uncertain. There is a quiet strength that develops within you. You may not know how everything will unfold, but you know who is in control. And that awareness brings a level of calm that no amount of planning could ever give you. Your attachment to specific outcomes begins to soften. You still have hopes, you still have dreams, but they are no longer rigid. You hold them with an open hand, allowing Allah to shape them in ways that are better than what you imagined for yourself. And in this process, you start to experience a deeper form of contentment. Not because everything is going exactly as you wanted, but because your heart has learned to trust the one who is in control of everything. You begin to live with a sense of surrender that is not forced, but understood. A surrender that comes from realizing that Allah's knowledge is complete, while yours is limited, that His plans are perfect, even when they don't align with your expectations. That sometimes what you are trying to hold on to is exactly what you need to release in order to move forward. And this realization slowly changes the way you carry your life, your decisions, and your future in your heart. When Allah changes your perspective, it is not a temporary feeling or a passing phase. It is a transformation that reaches the core of who you are. The way you think, the way you feel, the way you respond to life, all of it begins to shift in ways you never expected. You start to see that the life you once lived, the mindset you once had, and the things you once chased were all part of a stage you have now outgrown. Not because you are better than others, but because Allah has allowed your heart to see beyond what is zahir and connect with what is deeper and more meaningful. The struggles that once confused you now make sense in a way they didn't before. The pain that once felt unbearable now feels like it carried hidden wisdom. The need to control everything is replaced with a quiet trust. The attachment to dunya begins to fade, and your focus turns towards something greater, something lasting. And through all of this, you realize that nothing around you may have changed immediately, but everything within you has. This is the kind of change that cannot be reversed. Once your heart has tasted this awareness, it cannot go back to being blind. Once your soul has felt this connection, it cannot be satisfied with superficial things anymore. You walk through the same world, but you are no longer the same person. Your reactions are calmer, your intentions are clearer, and your heart carries a depth that only comes from being guided through both ease and hardship. And perhaps the most beautiful part of it all is that this transformation is not something you forced upon yourself. It is something Allah placed within you, nurtured through your experiences, and guided step by step until you became someone who sees life through a completely different lens of trust, of purpose, of patience, and of understanding that everything, every moment, every delay, every test is leading you exactly where you are meant to be